Children Warriors, another great morning. I'm always excited to be with you guys. Today we are going to talk about some good habits that you'll find in happy and successful people. It's important as you are striving towards your goals, as you are chasing happiness by rising to the challenge, that you understand a couple things along the way to help you maintain that motivation, that drive, that energy. Now, I do want to start by always defining happiness, right? This is an internal thing that's going on, right? As I refer to it, that inner drumbeat inside of you that expresses thoughts, feelings, emotions. The way that I've heard that often excites me to explain what that inner drumbeat sounds like is I was watching on YouTube at KRS-One a video where he was talking about that inner person. And so what he did is he had held like this rock star logo, and he had everyone say it to themselves. And when you say it to yourself, there's two things to understand. One is that there was a voice that was not moving with lips. There was also your ability to hear that voice, and there was nothing that was said with these lips for these ears to hear. And so there is inside of you your soul, right? And so it's to understand the difference between a couple nuances that we'll get into, but I really want to make sure you just understand some of these good habits so that you're able to maintain it, because the most common thing that I hear about is the feeling that, okay, I get it, Dre, we want to do something consistent, we want to do a little bit each day, and then we want to build on that, we always give 100%, but I always kind of take this 3,000-foot view and I start feeling a little overwhelmed, like, okay, it's been, a week, or it's been 2 weeks, but we have another 50 weeks, right? Where we're feeling like, can I do this the whole year? And I want you guys to kind of take that step back, and we're just going to go over some of these habits that will help you along the way. And so the first one is that understand that it's totally okay to not feel your best every single day, right? Happiness is not an ability to smile. It is not a high energy level. It is just this contentment within life. And so understanding that it is not this external expression all the time can help you understand that, you know what, I can be happy within a difficult situation, that I can be motivated, that I can be strong in a difficult, a unexpected turn of events. And you want to be able to allow yourself to say, you know what, this isn't my fault, right? I didn't do anything necessarily to bring this about. Even if you felt like you did, like there was room that you could have maybe avoided, or you could have went left instead of right, whatever that is, understand that you're gonna make mistakes, and that's really a part of the process. If we force ourselves to never make mistakes, then we would not take any action at all. And I find that that is part of the reason that a lot of people don't take action, is they do expect so much of themselves to even take the first step that it makes it almost impossible for them to get started. So you want to make sure you understand that you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Look at mistakes, look at failure the way that they should be looked at. And what I mean by that is you should look at them as opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn, experiences that you did not have that now are going to make you a better person, right? Like you have to understand the two halves of each of these coins, right? To know success, you have to know failure. And even if you're like, well, this person had $1 million idea and then they were successful, I promise you, on that journey, they failed a lot. Because failure is how we learn to tweak things. Right, when you're talking about marketing, for instance, that is something that we are very forgiving on, right? There is no expectation for you to get the campaign right. You are totally allowed to test headlines. You're totally allowed to test like paragraphs and bullets and descriptions, and you're able to see what works. And if we took that same approach within our own life, the way that we looked at decisions we made, then we'd be more willing to try things, right? It is not a big deal to have like 5 different headlines going at the same time to see which one people are most excited about. You've read about different authors with books where the way that they found which title to use for their book, they would poll their audience. They would run like ads towards these 2 different titles, and whichever ad went the best, that was the title that they used. So there is this understanding of failure as testing in certain scenarios where I think we've learned that it's unreasonable to expect yourself to know everything right away. Now the problem is in our normal life, when we're looking at things that we're doing, we kind of lose that idea of testing, where it's not a test, it is a failure. It is a sign that this is not for you. It is a mistake that you have made, and you need to run back and go to wherever where you need to run back and go to wherever your comfort zone is. And so I want you guys to have the same mindset, that you are testing your idea, that you are making adjustments as things are going along. You are gathering information. You are allowing yourself to go through the journey with just eyes wide open, but a very content expression, a very content understanding. And content is, you'll find that I keep mentioning it because content is the ability to say, things aren't where I want them to be, and that's okay. That does not influence my ability to be excited about this journey. That does not influence my willingness to continue going. It is just an understanding that I'm not where I want to be, I'm not where I need to be, but I can get there, but I will get there. I will learn this and I will grow from this. And that leads us into the next one, which is a growth mindset. And very simply, a growth mindset means that you understand that where you're at today, that you have the ability to improve that along your journey, that you will make adjustments, that you will understand and learn and grow, and then you will make the necessary changes that you have to make. A fixed mindset is the understanding that however I was born, whether I was lucky or unlucky, that this is my lot in life, that there is little that I can do to change my life. If I was born in a single parent situation, then I will be a single parent, and the statistics that say I will have a difficult life, that is my life, that I cannot undo this. And whatever the tragedy is that is in your life, where some are very serious with abuse and death and bankruptcies and different failures, where some are very difficult, it still doesn't mean that that is your fixed life. That you have the ability to choose to make a left instead of a right. That we as humans, we have this conscious ability that we often overlook, where we have this ability to take a step back, look at a situation, canvas it, and then make decisions based off of that information. Now, the mistake that we make a lot of times is we use that information to justify not taking action. And I would like you to look at this as a situation where you are looking for solutions so that you can keep going, that you will find happy and successful people. They're often judging the scenario and then deciding the next best decision, right? It is always the next best decision. It's never about, well, this didn't work, I should just quit, this isn't for me. It's just, okay, I made this decision based off of that information that I had. I have more information now. What is the next best decision that I can make? And I go over positive event stacking a lot more in Champion and Change, the 7 instrumental laws of change. And so you're able to get that book if you want to go into more detail. But I do cover that a lot more because I think that is a mistake that we often find. And I do encourage you guys to always be feeding your mind positive information where people have succeeded accomplishing the goal that you have set for yourself. And the reason that is important is whenever you're facing these doubts, where you're feeding yourself all the reasons that you shouldn't take action, that things are not going to work, that success is not in your path, then you say, well, this person found success and they did this, and I'm following a similar template. This person found success and they started in the same situation that I did. So my situation does not dictate the results that I'm going to get. And as you continually read this stuff, it will slowly ingrain into your subconscious, which will then be your actual subconscious thoughts. So when you start, it's all the reasons why you can't. But then when you build, when you're out like a month, now it's all the reasons I can, where you have a month of your own personal story, where it's like, look, I thought I couldn't do this, but look, I was able to figure this out and it worked great. I thought that this wouldn't work and it didn't, but then I was able to figure this out and it did give me the results I wanted from that. And if I never took the first risk, then I never would have gotten to the result that I wanted. And you're going to build this book, and where you're going to start with other people's stories, and then you're going to incorporate your own as you keep taking action, which is very important because that's the stuff, right? It's like the idea when you go onto Amazon and you're looking at reviews, you feel a lot better about the product, even though you still have no idea what it looks like, you still haven't bought it, you don't know all the specs exactly, but because 100 people have done what you've done, which i.e. is bought the product, and they said it worked for them, you feel a lot better. So you do that for yourself with your own experiences, and then you will feel a lot better because of your own testimonial, because of your own experiences, and also the testimonials of other people doing exactly what you're trying to do. And we'll close this up with the very last one, which is sort of like a 1A and a 1B. But the very last one is you gotta be forgiving, and we talked about that, but you really want to silence your inner critic. So we open by talking about the voice inside. Well, if you're like me, you have lots of voices inside, and I have conversations with myself all the time, and my wife and kids laugh at me. But there is this one voice that is what I would say is your soul, is your essence, is your being. And then there's a lot of other little voices that are doubting, and they're other people's experiences, they're your own personal experiences that have been kind of infiltrating inside of you, and they've been fuming, and they often are trying to talk you out of doing things. So you want to silence the inner critic, and the best way that I can describe your ability to recognize the inner critic, versus like caution or something like that, is if you do some of the previous steps, i.e., I have this doubt, and then I find that it is an unreasonable doubt, that there is a solution out there, someone has worked in a better or worse situation than me, and they've been successful, and you still find it difficult to take action, that voice is the inner critic. If it's someone that's just telling you why you can't do something and why status quo makes the most sense, that is your inner critic. And the best way, which will probably chuckle a couple of you, the best way to get rid of your inner critic is to not be critical about other people, right? Because again, it's a muscle, right? So we build it over time, and it gets really strong, and it's not a switch that we can turn on. So if you're critical about your friends, if you're critical about your families, then you're going to be critical about yourself. And I find that a lot of people that are dealing with the fear of rejection, it's because of how critical they are in their own situation, right? Think of someone who is very untrusting in a relationship. You often find that that person is the one that is making all of the infidelity. That person is the one always doing the cheating. And it's because their perception is, well, I'm doing all of these nice things in front of this person, and I'm doing all these awful things when they're not looking. So then it's difficult for that person to then look at the other person and say, well, yeah, they're doing all these nice things in front of me, but I am too. So then they most likely are doing some of these bad things behind my back too. And whether they do that just so they can justify their actions, or whether they do that because that's the tainted view they have because of the way that they are acting, it doesn't really matter. But it's something that you need to understand, that if you are being critical of other people, then you have to understand you are going to be critical of yourself. It is very difficult for you to look at situations and not be grateful, and then to have the ability to look at yourself and to be kind and compassionate. So if you want to be forgiving of yourself, allowing yourself to make mistakes, understanding that failure is a testing of an environment, then you have to be able to apply that same logic outside. So when other people mess up, when they make mistakes, you are not critical of them. You are compassionate. You are understanding. You show empathy towards them, right? And then that gives you the ability to do that for yourself, where you're compassionate to yourself. Yeah, you have to forgive yourself, but you also have to forgive others, and the vice versa. You got to forgive others if you're going to be able to forgive yourself. It is a two-way street, right? Like if someone is saying, I'm very disciplined in this aspect of my life, then they most likely are disciplined in other aspects of their life. If they have difficulties in one aspect of their life, then it's difficult for them to have them in others, right? Like that's the idea behind, waking up and making sure you make up your bed first thing in the morning. It is a sign that you have this discipline and you've already started building success on that day, and then you build from there. If you start where you have a little bit of lax in your structure, then you find that that lax flows into other parts of your life. And so you'll find that a lot of successful people, they're usually in like decent health, they usually wake up early, they're usually pretty clean and structured in other aspects of their life. Not to say that they're perfect and that they get everything right, but just to say that it flows into other parts of your life. So you want to be conscious of that. And that's going to do it for our Mindset Moment. I always enjoy our time together. Continue following, share, let me know. Is there one thing that you thought was the most beneficial thing that you heard today? Put that in the comments. I'll engage with you guys. Always thankful for our time together. Continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your life.